Afternoon. This is Fred LeFranc from Results for Strategy, and this is the next in our video series in terms of surviving the pandemic. Today's topic is a really interesting one. It's the next wave and phase of how restaurants can, morph into a delivery takeout model only. And it's really about becoming from strictly a restaurant to a combination restaurant, mini grocery store, kind of a pop-up grocery store, which are labeled grocerants. And this is a big part of what we're seeing happening throughout the country. So this wave of innovation that's occurring as people are trying to adapt to this new reality is part of what we're trying to bring to you. So today I'm joined by several great team members of mine and some friends of the industry that I'm going to introduce to you, and then they're going to tell you a little bit of their background, then we'll get into the heart of the matter of what you can do to convert your restaurant into a grocerant and increase your check average, get more revenue, and fill the gap that's happened in the marketplace today. So let me start with Liz. Liz, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, hi. I'm Liz Roscoe. I'm principal at Bread & Circus Consulting. It's mostly customer experience regarding culinary perspective and restaurants, hotels, and even CPG. I lend a good perspective from somebody who used to own restaurants and be a professional chef.
Great, fantastic. Len.
Good afternoon. My name is Len Galani. I'm with Results Through Strategy. My background is specifically, or pretty generally, everything operations, where the rubber meets the road. My particular passion is concept development, concept replication, training, and the guest experience and managing every detail that goes into it. I've opened several hundred restaurants in the country and look forward to helping several hundred more.
Great. Thank you, Len. Alex.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Birnbaum. My focus is on business and technology. I've been in the industry for 20 years and worked every position in the house, from dishwasher and line cook through management and then business technology.
Fantastic. So before we get into the specifics of what a grocerant is and how you can convert your business model to that, let's sort of start with where are we today? Because then again, this is changing day by day. Whatever we say today may be obsolete next week. But I'm going to ask Liz to tell us a little bit about, from your position, what's happening in the world of restaurants right now?
Yeah, if you'd asked me last week when we were talking about actually starting the delivery and takeout model as a saving grace for the restaurant, that's changed very rapidly. We've seen people losing their jobs at alarming record rates, making the potential for purchasing those gift cards to help restaurants or takeout and delivery not an option because they're a little bit much more of a spend for these people who have uncertain income streams. And so now the suggestion that we're talking about today is pivoting into selling staples and grocery items at restaurant. Most people in the restaurant business are implementing takeout and delivery, which is also watering down the offerings, right? If everyone's doing delivery now that wasn't necessarily on DoorDash before, there's so many more options, making the potential for increasing your revenue using takeout and delivery even more difficult.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's a very crowded space, and we have done a separate video series on delivery and takeout. First off, how to start it, and also how that's evolving. In fact, Alex and I did one yesterday that was posted to talk more about it. So I encourage you to go to the Results Through Strategy blog. That's where we're posting everything, and along with some of our social media posts. And needless to say, the word unprecedented has become the most important word nowadays because this is a black swan event, once in a lifetime. We will tell our grandchildren about what it was like to live through this change because it's going to be a permanent sea change as we're going along. So let's talk about what a grocerant is, okay? And it's interesting because this has come from both sides. There's grocery stores, there's restaurants. If you look at what Whole Foods did over the years, and others like Wegmans and stuff like that, they started bringing in prepared foods into the supermarkets and offering to guests to take home, or more importantly, sit down in the cafe. I remember when Whole Foods would come to town, restaurants in the immediate area would lose lunch sales because a lot of people would go to Whole Foods to get a certain type of food well prepared and then sit down in their cafes at the front of the store. So instead of having bottles of water and barbecue bags up there, they got a chance to sit in the cafe-style environment. And so the idea of restaurants inside a grocery store became very prevalent. Now, there have been concepts over the years like Eatsies. There was a combination of store and restaurant that had limited success. But now the reality is that there's a gap right now in the marketplace. So, for example, I've been working with getting food to my in-laws who live in Palm Desert. Well, it's a 2-week waiting period to get your food delivered right now in a grocery store, which is unbelievable to me. In Cleveland, one of our partners lives, it's a 1-week wait time for pickup. So you can't even pick it up if you pre-order for them to select it for you. You can walk in and go buy it, but many people are fearful about being exposed to the coronavirus walking into a supermarket without appropriate, protective gear. So where's the opportunity? The opportunity right now is if you as a restaurant can carry some basic staples, you open yourself up to the possibility of getting more sales. So people cannot just get delivery and takeout for your prepared foods. They can get bottles of water. Toilet paper is the big thing for everybody. In fact, some restaurants are doing specials where if you buy a takeout order, you get a roll of toilet paper, which is kind of interesting how they're doing that. So that seems to be a highly prized product right now. It's no longer a commodity. It's a precious jewel. And so that's what's happening there. And I do see that these clearly all our delivery people and grocery clerks are on the front lines of the fence. They're not in the same manner as a nurse or a doctor, but boy, they're being exposed to a lot of people. They don't know what's walking in there. But let's start a little bit about who's doing this, because this sort of came out of, again, the innovation through this disruption. So Len, I know you've researched some of this stuff, and Liz has some names as well. What kind of companies are doing this so that our viewers can look at their websites and see how they're promoting it?
Well, I would look at concepts like the Doghouse in LA. They have several locations, and they're rolling this out to all units. So they're all participating in that. Kathy Pavlos' concept Provenance in Newport Beach. She seems to be doing a great job with it. Curtis Stone's butcher shop called Gwen and Mods in Hollywood is also looking like they're doing a great job. And you can see a lot of photos of some of their displays online if you go into their website. Botanica in Silver Lake, Zinc Cafe and Market, Laguna Beach. So California has really jumped on this, and I think this is a wave that's going to come across the nation.
Okay, so Liz, representing the Rocky Mountain area, what are you seeing in Denver?
Yeah, here in Denver, what's interesting is the people who are uniquely qualified to already turn their location into a grocery or a market or mercantile. I'm seeing Tributary in Golden, Colorado is a food hall that's been selling a lot of grocery items. They also have a lot of space to do this to keep social distancing top of mind. Milk Market as well, owned by Frank Bonanno Concepts, is also transforming into almost sort of a pseudo Whole Foods model where they already had a butcher counter. They already had sort of these to-go items there, and they're just transforming directly into groceries. Those are the most interesting ones I've seen. In Houston, Texas, places like the Good Dog in Houston, Trinity Groves, also another sort of food hall concept is doing it.
That's great. Yeah, a friend of mine sent me some pictures of some restaurants and Moe's in southern Florida are doing kind of a grocerant approach. So this is coming up all over the place. We're going to see much more of it. So it's interesting. So now that we understand the opportunity, let's talk a little bit about how do you do this, right? Because this is a big unknown. I talked to some operators and gave them the idea. They're like, what do I do? Because it's so foreign to them, the idea that they're going to kind of be quasi-retail, whether it's takeout or delivery, it's just a new place to be. And of course, some restaurants, you're actually able to walk in as if it was a grocery store with the appropriate, what they call the Safe Six that everyone's been talking about. So let's talk a little bit about what's needed to transform your restaurant from strictly takeout and delivery of your product to a model that now adds other staple items in there. So Len, walk us through a little bit of some of the operational setup. We're going to talk about first what to do to prepare, and then we'll talk a little about how to execute it. So start with the operational setup. What do you see being needed?
I think to answer your first question, what do we do to prepare, is to partner with your vendors. Who are your distributors? What products do they have available to you? Quite frankly, there's a lot of them who are looking to unload a lot of products that you can get at a nice price to help you make sense of your margins. Then take a look at your dining room. Take a look at the area and move everything out of the way that is not necessary. Put in some nice tables and really think about what the guest experience is. What is the guest journey as they approach? How does it feel? Is there a music level that is relaxing and feels good? Is the temperature and the lighting correct? Remember, this can be as simple or as complex as you think you can handle. My first suggestion is to don't do anything that you can't execute perfectly so that you don't look like it's an afterthought. It's important that you don't look like it's an afterthought. This may be a temporary model, and temporary can be as long as this thing goes on, right? Nobody knows. So look at it as if you're in this business for the long run, whatever that means. It's okay also to sell items that are not necessarily on brand. Remember, you know your guest more than anybody in the neighborhood. even more so than your grocery stores may know you're a guest. As long as you're servicing their needs, whether it's an on-concept item or not. In other words, just because you don't sell hot dogs doesn't mean you wouldn't carry hot dogs as a grocerant.
Sure.
And this also applies to all types of restaurants, every segment, and also into country clubs and entertainment centers, food trucks, food halls. Everybody can participate in this in some format. Remember, be comfortable with it. We'll talk about some specific offerings in a little bit. What would your menu be? But the setup and display needs to be professional. Look abundant. Take a look at or imagine what your favorite grocery store looked like and the displays that made you want to sell it. If you're looking at fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, how do you sell it looking clean and bright and fun and festive and more so abundant? You have enough of it for what they're looking for. It's real important with the social distancing that we consider issues like the 6-foot distance between people. Maybe you do something fun by putting grid work with white tape on the floor or whatever color contrast with your floor in a 6-foot grid so that as people are walking on it, it feels more like they're walking on a chessboard, but they know that every side to side is a 6-foot.
Well, it's adult hopscotch.
Right.
Yeah.
And make that fun. You know, I think that that adults and everybody in all levels would get a kick out of that. Consider sanitizer stations. Consider having, and let's keep in mind that we want people to feel comfortable. So if they see one of your staff members walking around with a spray bottle, sanitizing that front door handle every time somebody comes in, wiping down the surfaces, really keeping the place sanitary and clean smelling and feeling, that helps to encourage their comfort level. You might have a hospitality table. Some of you more creative ones would set up maybe a coffee station or water bottles with, the jug with maybe some fresh fruit or limes or something inside the water so that people have disposable cups and just something to be drinking as they're walking around. Remember, you're trying to create an experience where people are confident, comfortable, and they just can take a break from the typical grocery experience.
Well, I feel safe. That's the biggest thing, is to feel safe at this point. So let's move over to some culinary considerations. So Liz, share with us just how someone might approach this, because we know there's all levels of restaurants, right? Because these are basically the sit-down restaurants much more than the drive-through restaurants that we're talking about. So you have anything from a diner to sort of a casual dining to polished casual fine dining. How would you approach this from a culinary standpoint?
Sure, I would really embrace the less is more philosophy from anyone from a chain prep cook to a high-level executive chef. Thinking about doing as little as possible to the foods that they're offering. Par cooking rice and grains and just serving them as is undoctored might be an option here. Marinating some raw meats, skewering them, thinking about what the grocery has been sort of implementing over the years to add value, rather than using your full extent of your chefdom and creating beautiful flavor development. That's not necessarily what consumers need right now as they're approaching you in that grocery space. Think about connecting the dots for your consumers more than giving them the final product, bridging the gap between takeout and grocery. Get creative. You are a chef. After all, you became a chef, right? Because you have inner creativity. What are some ways you can celebrate that creativity with your customers? Is it by having an engaging online cook-along? Is it by giving them free recipes? Is it by telling them how to prepare their favorite dish that they're used to getting in the restaurant with some of the groceries you're providing? And then really work with your purveyors. If your purveyors have beef on super sale, work with your purveyors to get the best actual price on that. You're good at doing that. You're good at negotiating for your wares. And then find those sort of items that you can get the best value on to pass that value on to your consumers. They have beef. Think about making prepared ropa vieja. Think about making beef skewers. Think about making marinated meats and items that your consumers can prepare at home. So anything from completely prepared items with that food value, that food cost value, to again, those pieces that people can cook at home and just really be creative with it.
Yeah, so it's interesting because today we're recording this on Tuesday where there's a big promotion for the Great American Takeout, which is fantastic, but that's just one meal, right? We need to think of multiple meals. And this opportunity with Grocerants gives us a view that says, don't just buy the food for tonight, buy the food for tomorrow and the next day. It could either be prepared meals that you can prepare in a package and take home and put in your refrigerator or freezer, or it can be, to your point, some raw foods like you do in butcher shops. You know, they have the marinated steaks and things like that. You can take them home and cook later on. So when you're thinking about what's available, go through your cooler with a new set of eyes. Say, if I was in a grocery store now, could I sell that out there? And by the way, I do want to mention, and we're getting to the execution, make sure that all your staff has gloves on. Don't have people handing things around. Some restaurants that are doing this are asking people not to fondle the produce because essentially that's a potential contamination point. So we got to think about this in a very, very different way. Keep in mind that and we'll get into the guest journey when we talk about execution, it's really about emotions. And people right now are scared and they don't feel safe. And we want to make sure we do that in a proper way. And we can do that if we self-regulate it from that standpoint. So let's talk a little bit about, Len, maybe some of the items that we would consider carrying that are not a part of our menu. We talked about cases of water, toilet paper. How would you categorize it? What kind of things would someone think about? By the way, distributors are happy to sell this to you. We've already checked with them. Their sales are down 70%. If you said, I want to buy 10 cases of toilet paper, a bunch of bottled water, and blah, 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 they go, yes, here it is. It'll be there tomorrow. So go ahead and walk us through that, Len.
And that is so true, Fred. The distributors are anxious to help you with this. So, as I look at what we can actually provide, I looked at it as three different levels. The first are the very basics. What are people looking for at the very basic level? And these are things, and I'm not going to go through the complete exhaustive list. I don't think there is an exhaustive list. You'll be able to download a little handout after this video that will get very specific on some of these items. But the very basics are things like fresh eggs and milk, dried pasta, all-purpose flour, dried or even par-cooked grains, fresh fruit, vegetables, bottles of water, toilet paper, of course, maybe some cereal, and you can get the individual packs like you see in the breakfast tables in hotel rooms.
You can do rolls and bread, right? So you can do that.
Right, rolls and bread, things like that people are looking for. Some proteins, individual packs of chicken, or even family packs, whatever your distributor can provide you. People are looking for the very basics. Now, if you're feeling a little more excited about this and you want to sell some additional items, I look at these as level 2 items. If you can find it, sanitizer bottles. But in addition to that, hand soap, bars of bath soap, shampoo, toothpaste, disposable razors, basic first aid needs, Band-Aids, maybe aspirin or Tylenol, kids snacks. Remember, we've got a lot of parents out there stuck at home with their kids all day long who aren't used to having them around all long, and they're not the ones being asked for the snacks all day. But maybe we can help them out, and the kids see these things, or the parents see these things. Goldfish crackers, things like that, chips, salsa. And if you're really feeling good about what you're doing and you're set up your display and you want to just go above and beyond, some differentiators might be, hey, coloring books and crayons, box puzzles, playing cards, cookbooks. To go back to what Liz was saying, I mean, there's people who are going to be cooking more than they've ever been cooking before, and they just need a chef knife. Well, all of your distributors carry chef knives. They carry them in different pack sizes. Maybe you need a different pot or a pan, and you want to take advantage of the time that you're isolated at home to hone your skills as a personal chef.
Well, that's great. Those are fantastic ideas. So, Alex, I'm going to pivot to you because you represent technology. Great. I got all this stuff to sell. My distributors have to sell to me, but my POS system is all about, hot dogs, hamburgers, chicken, and whatever the case, or pizza, right? And all of a sudden I have, 20 to 50 new SKUs I got to do. How does someone do that? How do they handle that situation?
It's going to vary by your specific POS system. And so the first thing I would say, and I say this in every video, and it's important to stress it, first thing you do is talk to your POS company they will have some ideas for you. But here's some stuff to get you started. Consider setting up what they call a separate menu. It's a menu, you hit the button, and it's all of the items that you're going to be selling for this new Grocerant concept. So you might categorize it rather than appetizers and entrees. You might start categorizing it the way you categorize it in a grocery store. So you have your produce, you have your poultry, your dairy, whatever it might be. You can set it up that way, and it makes it easier to ring. Certain POS systems actually have scanners that you can buy, you can attach and scan the actual PLUs. That's complex, and you don't have to start there. You can start with simply putting the items in, price them the way you're going to price them, and put them out there. A consideration that everybody I think is thinking about right now are price lists. I've seen this executed in a number of different ways, but often after you put your menu in, you can post your price list of what you have there, and you can use it either to print it and put it on the shelves, or you can use it to actually price the items themselves. I don't know if some of the people here on this call would like to talk about the actual way of pricing these items, but when you get into that, they probably have some tips for you on that side. The final thing I would say about pricing in the POS is make sure you take into account local regulations around taxing. At this point, a lot of people are asking for forgiveness, but prepared items sometimes have different tax rates than the food that you're selling in the restaurants. In certain states, staple items that are considered non-taxable. And so just make sure you take that into account, and your distributors and various others can give you additional information on how those items are sold and taxed.
No, that's some great feedback. So let's move into talking a little bit more about also supply chain, right? So your distributors are your partners, and they want the business right now. They'll work with you. They'll give you terms and so forth and so on. Len, when it talks about pricing, how does someone even begin to look at pricing? What would you recommend people do?
Well, I think the first thing is most of us know what things cost in a grocery store. The biggest piece of this is to maintain our position as socially responsible members of the community. We don't want to gouge. Just because you can charge, and it's amazing, I saw it on eBay the other day, somebody turned me on to it, not because I was looking for it, but because it was sort of entertaining. I mean, I saw rolls of toilet paper being sold by the sheet, 5 sheets for $1.99. Come on. Why would we do something like that? So let's make sure that we're not gouging people. So take a look at your grocery store pricing and go from there. And if you don't have time to do that, a simple...
We get online. Just get online. You can see the prices online. Go to Amazon. There's a lot of ways of checking out prices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a simple rule of thumb could simply be your cost from your distributor plus 20%. Let's face it, you don't have a lot of labor.
There are some value adds that restaurants could add to justify charging a little bit more. I mean, your consumers know that you're, in essence, a super curator. So if you're getting the best produce in that's better than they can pick at grocery, that's value add. If you're willing to deliver and tell them what you actually have on hand, that's a value add. Where you're changing your website and informing them on a daily basis of what you have, that's value add. So cost plus 20%, plus it's okay for a little bit more because you're there to serve your community.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think most retail stores market up a third anyway, so that's kind of what it is. But it's interesting because I've noticed in supermarkets they are doing a lot of sales. I mean, they're definitely leveraging this to really bring in additional business. So you could do that as not quite a loss leader, because I saw restaurants where they're including a roll of toilet paper if you do delivery for some of their food items. So you can do that in-house as well, or add that as well. Keep in mind also the other products to consider, the bottle and can programs for soft drinks, for the people who drink soft drinks still, so that they can keep it over several days. Okay, so we have an understanding now of how to do that. So let's talk a little bit about how to promote this, because this is tricky, right? Liz said at the very beginning, there's a lot of people doing delivery and takeout that were not doing it before. Many people didn't want to, that they didn't want to use third-party aggregators, which is fine. The concepts that decide to do delivery now may turn their drivers or their former servers because they can't work in the dining room anymore. So now you've got people on the road. Now there are insurance liabilities here. Talk to your insurance broker. We're going through this disruption and the rules are kind of fluid. But at the end of the day, when things settle down, someone's going to claim something. So be smart about this whole thing. But if you're going to use employees for self-delivery, that's fine. But the real issue is, how do I become known? How are people aware of it? Now, you may have already a loyalty program, an email list. That's one of the ways to do it. Go out on social media. Facebook is the best one you can use to sort of have a broad net in terms of you can target your local community. Facebook will happily take your money to promote your product. Twitter is a great place also to have a broad net within your community. But the engagement is going to occur much more on Instagram. We had a chef on the other day, and she said, take pictures of your food the way it's plated in the restaurant, even though they're going to get it in a box, because that's kind of what it can look like. It gives people an idea of how they can prepare it. It's the old joke about I order takeout, then I put it on plates and pretend I cooked it. You can still do that. If anything, it's just to give you a sense of normalcy at home. So making sure that you're aware about it, and don't take it for granted the fact that word of mouth will spread. If you're doing a good job, and as Len pointed out, you're good citizens to your community, they will tell their friends and neighbors, oh my God, this restaurant down the street did a fabulous job. They're starting to do it. Now, what I've noticed is a lot of restaurants that closed a week ago because they weren't prepared for this and are now just reopening under this new delivery model. And that's okay. This, to me, this Grocerant is sort of like phase 2 of delivery. Start with delivery and takeout with what you currently do, and then learn how you can do this. And I'd start with 5 items, then maybe go to 10 and go from that standpoint. There's lots of ways of trying to do that. You might talk to other people in your community. Some neighborhoods, like next door as an app, is a great place to advertise what you're doing, because that's out there and available. Depending if you're in a mall, the mall itself might have some promotion that's going on, or talk to the businesses around you and see if you can sort of partner with them to sort of do a special thing here. There's a lot of ways of doing this in terms of what we're trying to go through.
Hey, Fred, one thing to add to that list is also the social media piece of your loyalty program. A lot of restaurants out there have very active social loyalty programs, or loyalty programs that they use for their diners, and the ability to market to those people who are already they're already emotionally tied to your business is a great way to get people in the door.
And don't forget to update your Google listings, your Facebook accounts, Yelp, all the stuff. Whatever you're changing now in your model, you got to reflect it out there. You know, again, a lot of things are happening. There's a lot of things to do, but clearly you're not going to be open for dine-in seating. So you got to let people know what you're offering and what makes you unique. This is where you have an opportunity to have differentiation. So let's move over and talk a little bit about execution. You know, now we do a lot of journey mapping with our clients in terms of the guest journey. And what we've shared with them is that the guest journey, which is really the experience, and I define experience by activity fused with emotion. And the great restaurants know that and understand that their job is to have someone feel an emotional experience that's so powerful they're compelled to repeat it and come back time and time again. Now we've got a sort of a different setting here. The emotion is still driving it, and the number one emotion right now on the planet is fear. And what we're trying to do is have an emotion of safety, reassurance, comfort, familiarity, caring, kindness. Those are the emotions that we want, and they can be done through takeout and delivery. Absolutely can be done. And the way you interact with people, either online or on the phone or whatever the case would be, however you're interfacing with them. Of course, clearly, if they walk to your restaurant, if they're just picking up a takeout order in the parking lot, or they're actually walking in to see what you have on display. But Len, take us through some of those critical touch points that people need to consider emotionally, how they can enhance this guest experience in this new environment.
I think it starts with the parking lot. People are pulling into your parking lot. What does it look like? Does it look like you're open, or does it look like you're closed? Does it look like you're just doing a soup kitchen kind of service just because you have to, or does it look like this is your business? Turn your lights on. If you have music outside, turn it on. Make it look like you're alive and well. If you have somebody on your staff that can open the door for people so they don't have to touch the handle, immediately you put them at ease. I didn't have to touch anything so far except my door. You walk in and they walk in and they hear the music and they feel the excitement and the ambiance. I mean, let's face it. This is going to be as fun as you make it for your guest, and the more comfortable they feel, the better they are going to experience and talk about you. Remember also, you don't know how long you're doing this, so you better start doing it right the first time and hone your skills as you see what your guests are looking for. Make sure they see, as I mentioned earlier, make sure they see people cleaning the surfaces and sanitizing around them. Make sure that they see that all of your staff is wearing gloves and hats, and they are very consciously aware of their distance from you and yours from each other. That's all part of the emotion that puts them at ease. Wow, I feel like I'm somewhere where if I don't have to touch anything, I won't. Fred mentioned earlier the fruits and vegetables. You know, people don't want to be handling the same tomato that somebody else had their paws all over. Maybe we put out those, and you all have them, those little square paper sheets. Maybe you have those next throughout where people can grab that. You see them a lot at donut displays where you can grab that square sheet and pick up something. If you want it, you take it. If you don't, you put it down.
Deli paper.
Right, the deli paper. And think of the little details. Okay, now I have this sheet in my hand. What do I do with it? Let's put trash cans that are professionally lined and look nice, not just thrown around and looking sloppy. This is your place of business. This is your name, and this is your reputation. And you're creating a comfort level that gets people to want to come back. Let's face it. Everybody who walks in, you want to see them again. Yep. You want to see them again in a couple of days. You want to see them next week. How do you make them feel?
Yeah, and I was in a restaurant that they had kiosks, and they had a box of gloves there that people could put a glove on to do the ordering on the kiosk and throw the glove away right away. So you have that safety. Every model is different, every restaurant's different, so it makes it difficult to try and pull off. And then if you have a checkout station, if someone's taking a delivery, you can always do it with remote handhelds if you have that available. Obviously, if you're a counter restaurant, you have a counter restaurant. If you're a full service restaurant, you have a POS system next to the bar. It's going to be done in different ways. So make it easy for people to understand where to go. Help them navigate it. Having team members on the floor, a manager on the floor, helping them understand how to do that's going to be an important piece of it. So what I'd like to do, I guess, as we wrap up this conversation, is to ask everyone to sort of give us the top 1, 2, 3 pointers they want to recap that some of our viewers can walk away with. And we will have available, and I'll give you my email address. If you want to write into me, I'll send you the handout of what these checklist items are that we're trying to accomplish and other ideas. And maybe I have a PowerPoint of some pictures of some restaurants that I will send as well to give you a view of what you might consider. So let me start with you, Liz. What are your closing comments?
I really think that we as hospitality industry need to embrace our hospitality spirit and not forget about that. My main point is that layer that servant leadership attitude over everything that you're doing. So also think that your consumers now are not just your target market, like aspirational. They've separated themselves into very distinct groups. And I think when you're messaging what you have available, how you're providing it, how they can get it, know that there are consumers out there who are very scared, and you still have your foodies out there looking for a foodie experience. So really know your separate target markets and speak to them, promote to them, display to them very differently, but succinctly and successfully.
That's great. Fantastic. All right, Alex.
The first thing I would say is just do it. Get out there and do it. This is you jump in with both feet. We can figure this out together as an industry. The other thing I would say is your POS might be scary to you individually, but there's people out there that can help you with it. Almost every system that I've ever worked with has an open item or open dollar item key in there. And if you can't figure out any other way to do it to get your revenue in the door, just use that open key. Good
idea. All right, Len.
Remember that we are in the business of people taking care of people because it's the right thing to do, not because somebody made us do it. Everybody in this industry gets up every morning wanting to take care of others because we have a biological need to satisfy other people. That's our business. Let's remember that. How do you want to be remembered by the people who walk into your restaurant? What are you going to do to make them feel more comfortable, more confident, and happy that you are there? How are you going to make a difference on a daily basis and through their one experience? We've all had bad experiences through this entire situation so far, and it's just begun. How do you want to be remembered by your neighborhood that you are a part of? Your kids go to the same schools as your guest kids go to. How do you want to be talked about?
Great. Words of wisdom from a wise old man. So for our viewers, thank you so much. And we are open to your ideas. This actually came about as a result of someone saying to me, hey, can you tell me more about this? How are we trying to do it? I'll be working with the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association. They'll be doing a webinar on this exact same topic in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that as well. There might be other points of view. And if there's other pressing topics and things you want to learn about, make sure that you reach out to me directly, and I will try and fulfill that for you. Get onto the restaurant blog that we have on results-through-strategy.com. We've already posted several videos and other releases of information to help you survive the pandemic. Thank you so much. Stay safe, be healthy, laugh often. God bless you, and thank you for joining us today. Talk to you soon.